Welcome to another Mobalytics tier list video, and today we're taking a look at how patch 13.12 looks a week after the update. Tons of broken champions and items to abuse, from static shift mid laners to Triforce abusers everywhere else. So don't forget to download our desktop app to get the best builds, runes and pick recommendations in every single game. Starting off in the top lane and in the S tier we have Akshan, Fiora, Jax, Kled, Malphite, Maokai, Olaf, Ornn, Poppy, Rengar and Singed. A couple of small shifts like Akshan and Kled coming back up to S, Cho and Mundo moving down, and Varus joining the A tier. But overall, nothing too crazy in this role this week. Varus in the top lane is definitely flavour of the month at the moment, and winning a crazy amount of games, especially so as you lean towards higher ranks. He has a load of different build options, but it's his AP build with Nashor's into Riftmaker that just seems to be stomping in so many games in the top lane. He can bully so many low range matchups, he can farm easily in difficult lanes, he can set up ganks perfectly once level 6, and he just offers so much damage throughout games, making him one of those champions you just don't want to forget about. Fiora is still one of the strongest top lane picks to play right now though, maintaining a very impressive win rate at most ranks but offering so many different ways to carry games too. She can split push and destroy side lanes with a hull breaker, or she can look to flank and carry team fights instead by popping those squishies in seconds with those vitals and her ultimate. Fiora is actually pretty easy to pick up and learn, but she has an insanely high skill ceiling. So whatever rank you are, she's a fantastic champion to master and carry with in solo queue, so give her a go. Nasus's buffs definitely made a bit of a difference last week, but he's still a bit too much of a niche pick to move into those top tiers. His stats are actually fairly impressive, and when you pick him in the right games he can turn into an absolute raid boss with those Q stacks and tanky items. I've seen some Nasus mains destroy entire games by himself in the right draft with champions who simply cannot deal with it. The sustain, the burst damage, those withers, he actually does offer so much when you think about it. And as long as he's not against a comp who can shut him down easily, you should be able to come out on top pretty often. Gangplank mains will have been super happy with the buffs he got last week, and in the higher ranks those one tricks are proving how devastating he can be to play against. However, for the majority of the player base, he's still in a pretty average spot. Even if he gets super fed, he can be so easy to shut down because he's so squishy, and it really is those top level pirates only that can play him perfectly. The sheer amount of damage that GP can pump out though is just insane. The barrel combos, the AoE damage with the ultimate, and even just the close range burst with auto attacks Q and his passive too. A good Gangplank is a scary sight to behold. But don't worry too much, because a lot of GB players are just first timing it and couldn't even explode a bottle of Coke with Mentos, let alone a triple barrel flash combo. Moving down to the jungle now, and in the god tier we have Rek'Sai, Ivern and Kindred, all three of which are just absolutely busted right now. So if you aren't playing these guys, why not? In the S tier though we have Evelynn, Fiddlesticks, Jarvan, Kha'Zix and Rengar. Karthus joins the B tier, and Kayn and Nidalee move up from B to A. Kha'Zix's nerfs were definitely overdue, as he's been a bit too strong recently. But despite these nerfs, his win rate has stayed high enough to keep him in the S tier. He still offers crazy amounts of burst damage and an amazing ability to solo carry in the game once he's ahead. And that little bit of early game base damage hasn't really scratched the surface of what this champion is capable of. The stealth, the isolated burst, the evolved W giving him tons of poke too. It is really easy to see why he's so strong, and it's going to take some more nerfs to squish this bug from popping off consistently. The Gragas nerfs to his passive however have made a massive difference, and he saw a huge drop off in his win rate in the jungle, top and mid lane roles. Gragas still has solid engage and burst damage, but the issue is he's all about spacing and fighting around that passive to sustain through fights and jump in and out when it suits him. If we're being honest though, Gragas was a bit too strong, and I'm sure many of you are happy that it's been hit pretty hard. Although if you are a Gragas main, you may not share the same opinion. He probably needs a little bit of a compensation buff to meet in the middle of this nerf, but for now he falls down in all respective roles this patch. Nidalee has been rising back recently, and in our high elo tier list she's carrying a ton of games and up there in the S tier. If you want to check out more about our high elo tier list, then hit the link in the description and head to our website. Nidalee is all about snowballing and dominating the map when she jungles. The early ganks to get a lead, then stacking up that soul stealer to deal insane damage not only with those spears but also those dashes into the execute on her Q. She may take a bit of practice and you need to really have a solid understanding of jungle tempo to pull her off consistently. But if you do have what it takes, she's up there with the best in the top tiers this patch, so maybe it's time to give her another try. Over to the mid lane now, and in the god tier we have Neeko and Annie, and in the S tier we have Akshan, Anivia, Cassiopeia, Fizz, Pantheon, Swain and Talon. Heimerdinger and Jace join the A tier, Ahri moves from S to A, Sylas moves from A to B, and Akshan rejoins the S tier. Static Shiv LeBlanc has been causing absolute chaos in the Summoner's Rift recently, and we've put her in the A tier for this majority player base tier list. In those higher ranks though, there's not been anything this broken for as long as we can remember, if you can play it well enough. Bobkin was one of the main players who brought this build to life and showed just how insane it can be, but now every single high elo mid main under the sun is just straight up abusing it, and also experimenting with a similar build on other champions too. The wave clear from Shiv allows you to power farm like nothing you've ever seen before. It genuinely evaporates in front of your eyes. But then you've also got insane single target and AoE damage too, alongside crazy high mobility that goes hand in hand to charge up that Shiv more frequently. So yeah, nothing really too much more needs to be said, except this build is completely broken, so abuse it while you can if you are good enough to play it. If you do want to stay up to date with the best LeBlanc builds this patch, then click that link in the description to check it all out on our desktop app. You can see the highest win rate builds, you can see what the pros are using, and you can even see what the best players build in each unique mid lane matchup, so don't miss out. Nico is still broken right now too, and just winning stupid amounts of games across all ranks and in a variety of roles too. You can basically play her anywhere, but the mid lane is where she's having the best results. Now first things first, before you even think about that crazy passive, she offers loads of wave clear, amazing gank setup, and one of the most overpowered ultimates in the game. Her damage feels a little bit overtuned as it is, and then you realise that you can get seriously fed in most games by just playing like a maniac. Unpredictability is the name of the game. You can lane gank with ease, you can pretend to be wards, you can zoom into lanes with your W and set up huge fights with your ultimate, dealing crazy amounts of damage at the same time. Playing against a Nico is a really unique experience, because if you switch off for even 1 second, before you know it she's flashing onto you and deleting you with her ultimate. Count those minion waves, check every ward, plant and trap, and you may have a chance, but just be careful. Ryze is finally viable again since his buffs last week, and in certain games he's actually proving to be a top choice in that mid lane again. Riot buffed his passive and his E last week, and it seems to have been enough to bring him back into a somewhat healthy position again. He has spent so many months in every single season recently in the depths of the lowest tiers with some of the worst win rates in the game. But in this patch so far, in the majority of ranks, it's above 50%. Ryze is very difficult to balance because of how broken he can be in pro play, but the changes last week were definitely a step in the right direction. Well, let's move down to those AD carries now, which is where a huge focus of this patch was aimed at. And in the S tier we have Draven, Ezreal, Jhin and Karthus. Kog'Maw moves down from S to A, Zeri and Lucian both move down to B, and Ashe moves up from B to A. Draven with Triforce is the ultimate Giga Chad in the bot lane right now, and if you are good enough to play him as well as he can be played, there's simply very few options that can compete with him. Triforce is one of the strongest mythics in the game, and with so many champions in a variety of roles building it above their usual mythics, it's obvious it's just so good. After Triforce on Draven, you can go for other strong burst items like the Collector, Bloodthirster and Lord Dominik's Regards, and this build gives you durability, sustain and of course tons of damage to all types of targets. So if you are adept at catching those axes consistently, kiting and bursting down your enemies like a demon, then honestly this is genuinely free elo right now. Kai'Sa is finally back into a good spot after the buffs last patch to her AD growth, which means she can actually evolve those abilities sooner and hit those power spikes early enough again. There's a huge variety of Kai'Sa builds being played at the moment. You've got traditional AD carry with Navori Quick Blades, you can go hybrid with Nash's Tooth, or you can go a combination of the above, also adding in the unbelievably broken static shiv to the build. Kai'Sa is one of those AD carries that when she's viable, a good one will make you think she's completely broken. She has all the tools she needs to outplay enemies in all situations really, with her burst damage, her kiting and self-peel, and mobility with her ultimate. So if you do pick Kai'Sa in the right lanes this patch, she's not too far off the top spots, so give her a go. Zeri's nerfs hit her like a truck, and to be honest, I think most people are relatively happy with that because she was a bit too strong for a while. Her win rate has dipped significantly at all ranks, and now it's only the top Zeri 1 tricks that are actually still playing her. She is still viable in the right games, in the right hands and with the right supports, but aside from that she really has fell off substantially. We also wanted to talk about Lucian too, because unfortunately despite Riot's best intentions with his changes last patch, he has really struggled to hit the mark. They nerfed his passive but changed it so he synergizes better with a variety of lanes. However, these nerfs plus the item nerfs too just hindered him too much, and without a solid build path to go for, he's just not as good as the other options despite having a really solid start after patch 13.10 hit. Let's see what Riot have in store for Lucian going forward, but for now he's going to chill in the B tier. Finally, let's have a look at those supports then, and in the S tier we have Annie, Blitzcrank, Janna, Nautilus, Rakan, Rel, Sona, Soraka and Thresh. Melio moves down to A with his nerfs, Yuumi moves from A to B, and Nautilus, Thresh and Soraka all join the S tier this week. Rel is up there with the best supports in the game now, and despite her still underwhelming popularity, her win rate is a bit crazy. She has always been a niche and situational support, but people haven't quite realised yet that since her rework, she's much more consistent now, and just so much stronger than she's ever been before. She feels so much smoother to play now, and offers a much more dynamic and less one-dimensional playstyle. The new movement speed boost with her and her allies feels fantastic, and it's still just as satisfying as ever landing that huge engage with your ultimate for your teammates to follow up on. She without a doubt has some really optimal lane pairings like Samira for example, but that's not to say you can't pick her with generally strong champions. Because for example, if you manage to grab that Draven and Rail bot lane, it's a little bit overpowered. With other enchanters taking a big hit last patch, the pure sustain machine that is Soraka has risen back into a great spot again, actually making it into the S tier this week for the first time in years. Soraka is the definition of a healing support, and she's all about keeping her AD carry topped up so they can lane and trade indefinitely. She then scales into an annoying ambulance in the mid to late game, sprinting towards teammates and keeping them healthy and saving the day even in the most dire of teamfights with that game-changing global ultimate. Soraka is pretty easy to learn, but you do have to be careful of those aggressive lanes who can get hold of you and shut you down. But if you do manage to stay alive, you've got heals for days and a fair bit of poke alongside some amazing scaling. So give her another try if it has been a while. Nautilus is back up into the S tier where he belongs and really proving how lethal he can be this patch. He's one of the most aggressive hook supports in the game, famous for those early all-ins and easy roams to the mid lane with the widest hitbox hook in the whole game, no question. He can help aggressive AD carries snowball like no other, and he punishes enemy summoner spell cooldowns every single game without fail. Nautilus is pretty easy to play, but his ability to carry games is up there with some of the best champions in the game. So if you do main support and you haven't been playing him, you need to ask yourself why. That's going to bring us to the end of our patch 13.12 updated tier list video. We hope you enjoyed it and let us know in the comments who you're having the most success with. Don't forget to click the link in the description and download our desktop app to help you rank up faster before the end of this rank split. Thanks for watching everyone, and as always, take care.